Oh wow, sometimes you really can't tell how sick you actually look until you hop on camera. So, if I look and sound sick during this video, it's because, you can do the math. What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for a review of the 6th LP by The Wonder Years. This one is called Sister Cities. It was inspired by life on the road, and it started off by the band kind of chronicling their time, writing things down, putting photos together, and just collecting memories, whether it be their time on the road or in the studio together, or just memories of the past that are still haunting them. Obviously, most people know that the lead singer Dan Campbell, aka Soupy, is somebody who has a lot of demons. He's somebody who feels a lot of guilt and a lot of anxiety for things that have happened in the past and things that still continue to plague him to this day. And on this record, Sister Cities, while some tracks do feel a bit more euphoric in the sense that it seems like he's had a breakthrough, many of them still have an overwhelming sense of sadness to them. And that's exactly what you go to The Wonder Years expecting these days, especially if you've listened to their past two albums, then you definitely kind of feel that crushing guilt and that pain that is ridden not just with him, but probably the entire band, considering a lot of the people that they talk about were friends of people in the band. And on Sister Cities, while it's not so direct and specific that I feel like it's always about the exact same person that maybe perhaps they were talking about on No Closer to Heaven, which was a great record if you have not heard that one, I feel that here they've kind of branched out, not only in the lyrical content and who they're talking and discussing, but also musically. This album feels much more diverse. Whereas on their past few releases, and really since their start, I know they've grown a lot since the debut album, Get Stoked on It, which the band disowns, and you couldn't pay me to listen to that again. They've come a long way since then, but obviously they had a different style of pop punk that they were playing in more recent years, like on The Greatest Generation, and even on No Closer to Heaven, even though that one more was a rock album overall, I would say. This new album, Sister Cities, is a straight-up alternative rock approach. There's some synthesizers layered in the background of some of these tracks, like Pyramids of Salt, and there's also kind of an attack and release that you haven't seen from them in the past. This album is much more calculated, and I would say that it kind of almost gives a cold shoulder in the sense that it paints a portrait, and you feel like you're actually in the room experiencing these things a lot of the times, and that can only mean good things for just how connected you feel to some of these tracks. The lead-off single was the title track from this album, Sister Cities, and that one was a great blast of energy that definitely blends styles that the bands have been known for in the past, while also incorporating these new themes. And this track in particular really just feels like life out on the road. It does a great job of bringing the band's chemistry together. There's a prominent guitar lead that I really enjoy on this track, super catchy, and Soupy's vocal performance here, especially during the chorus, is so captivating and charismatic. It reminds you of why you like him so much in the first place and why you're drawn to this band. They also released Pyramids of Salt as one of the pre-release songs, and I really love this track. It's brooding, but it also feels big in a weird way. It's a slow burn effect, and it starts off by describing kind of like a rustic, rural point of view where a city is getting ready for the winter because the Pyramids of Salt is referring to all those big things and those containers of salt that they keep to salt the roads, and it really does feel somber. And then it cuts in with these really cool drums, I would say, and I love the guitars on this one as well because they take a different approach. And like I mentioned a minute ago, there are synthesizers on this track, and that kind of rounds out their sound. It's something that does feel very much like The Wonder Years, but at the same time, it's not so different that I feel like it's going to alienate fans. As this album rolls on, we continue to get some great cuts, some ones that I feel are some of The Wonder Years' best work, but there's also moments that kind of bring it down for me in the sense that they get a little bit stale, or maybe the ball just isn't rolling along like it should and things get stagnant. I'm not saying that it's an overwhelming problem for me whatsoever. I really do enjoy this album as a whole. there's just a few things that I can't quite put a finger on. Some of these tracks that I like, but still something about them maybe holds it back a bit. I'm looking to tracks like Heaven's Gate, which I really do like. I don't know why. That one is standing out in my mind as one that I'm just not drawn to as much. And also When the Blue Finally Came. This is one that I love lyrically, but musically it's just kind of short and almost feels a tad out of place, especially when it's arranged the way that it is in the track listing. It comes in between two very explosive and just charged tracks that have a lot of emotion and depth to them. And while this track does have depth lyrically, I don't feel like it's in the right spot in the track listing. As a standalone tune, sure, but I think it kind of throws off the pacing. Now the tracks surrounding that are both great, especially the Orange Grove. What a great guitar solo we get on that one, absolutely euphoric. And we also get a really catchy, kind of earwormy chorus on that one. It's been sticking with me over time. I've been playing this record over and over and over again. And like I said, some tracks just aren't staying with me, some I'm having a hard time remembering, but the Orange Grove and the other track on the other side of the track that I was talking about, The Ghost of Right Now, are both really hitting me. They're both kind of gut punches in a very different way. The Ghost of Right Now is a great kind of almost introspective look, but also taking a look at other things and putting them into consideration as well. Just the turmoil and the things that Soupy and the others have been through. It's a really cool song, and one that has one of the best guitar performances here, I would say, and one of the most engaging vocal performances. All throughout this record, I think that fans are going to be happy with the blend of rock and also these new alternative-leaning sounds that they've found. And while some are for sure going to be missing the pop-punk sound, I think that there are still traces of it that kind of flare up here and there. Sister Cities definitely has elements, but there's also some much slower songs. I already mentioned When the Blue Finally Came, but I also have to give a big mention and a lot of praise to the track Flowers Where Your Face Should Be. That one is incredibly emotional to me, and it's one that I feel like could be about perhaps somebody that passed away, a friend or something like that, that couldn't be at Dan Campbell's wedding. And he talks about building his wedding arch out of the driftwood, out of the redwood, and putting that up. And he sings about other things on this track that just makes me feel like it could be somebody that's missing from his life. That's just my speculation and takeaway from this song. But what really stands out here is the fact that this song is beautiful, and the way that his vocals really roar to life, especially when he's singing about them not having much but them having love. Just incredible. A great track all in all, and one of my favorites on the entire LP. There's also some great rockers in the form of It Must Get Lonely. Obviously the opening track, which is about Dan Campbell's grandfather reigning in Kyoto. That one really does start off on a more abrupt note. If you've noticed in the past, they've generally opened up their records on more of a slower, kind of like drawing you in type vibe. And this time, it's just right off the bat. You're getting into the guitars, reigning in Kyoto. That's the first lyric. And he describes the portrait of where he was at that time. His grandfather passed away and he wasn't there, and he guilts himself for that. He kind of gives himself the guilt trip saying, I should have been there. And this is a recurring theme. This is something that the band has talked about many times. Obviously, Soupy has had individuals that have passed away in his life that he feels guilty for not being there for. And some people are going to feel like, does this guy ever, does he ever get happy? Does he ever get over anything? And the fact is, sometimes when it rains, it pours. And with a band like the Wonder Years, while they do have their positive songs, they have a certain distinct appeal lyrically. And I think that Raining in Kyoto might sound a bit more positive in its musicianship. But lyrically, it's kind of depressing once again. It's a sad story, but I'm so glad that it got told. Absolutely love this track. All in all, I really can't complain about this record all that much. I mean, there are the tracks that I said that kind of throw off the pacing for me, but there's really not that many that I dislike. All the way from that opening moment that I just mentioned to its closing track, The Ocean Grew Hands to Hold Me, which is just kind of a sad, fizzling closer that goes on for 6 minutes. Maybe it's a bit too long, but at the same time, I do like the story there. I don't know. I like the album. I'm not in love with it though, and I really don't feel like it's staying with me as much as No Closer to Heaven or even The Greatest Generation, which is what maybe counts off a slight point or two for me, you know, like not in terms of like the actual rating, but there's just a few things that kind of bog it down a little bit, and some things that don't stand out to me as much. I like the experimental approach taken on some of these tracks, and they really do stand out. We Look Like Lightning is a great example of things working. A great bass line on that track really shapes up to be quite nice. Overall, a super good tune that I've really enjoyed the vibe of, and just the change of pace that's offered in the middle of the song. But like I said, there's also the moments where I just feel like things get a bit off balance. I don't know, I'm conflicted on this one, I really truly am. I've been bouncing back and forth between a 3.5 and a 4 for the rating of this album, but I'm gonna have to be fair and say what I'm honestly feeling. I'm gonna give this a strong 3.5 out of 5. And I know what you're thinking, John, you really didn't give that many criticisms. Are you sure it's only a 3.5? And the answer is yes. I'm not liking it as much as their last two records, and both of those I rated a 4 out of 5. So I think it's only fair, and in terms of consistency and being consistent with my ratings, I'm going with that. Let me know what you think in the comments section down below. Please drop a like on this video if you did enjoy my review. I cannot believe I just nailed this in one take. Holy shit, the sick guy nailed it in one take. This is a blessing for my evening. I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and please let me know your thoughts on it and check out the record if you have not already. Sister Cities by The Wonder Years, their 6th album, a 3.5 out of 5. It would be amazing if you would be able to support me on Patreon on a monthly basis. It's the annotation over here in the corner of your screen. If you would like to see the last Wonder Years review that I did, it's right over there, No Closer to Heaven. Or you can see another recent review I did in the world of rock right over here. All of my social media accounts that you see over here can be found in the description down below. And other than that, I'll see you very soon right here on ARTV.